Hello friends, welcome back to Liz's Reading Corner, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Liz and I like books, and today we are going to go through a sort of list of new release books that I am interested in. This is by no means an exhaustive list of books that are going to be released. It's just some books that I saw were being released and thought looked interesting, or they piqued my interest. I would like to read them at some stage, but I guess it just depends, obviously, on availability when I get to them, my other reading plans and that sort of thing. I had planned, or I wanted to do this sort of video for a while now, and I'd considered doing it in like a monthly sort of basis instead of weekly, but then I realized that there is like roughly 10 or so books, sometimes more, sometimes less, every week, at least for until like June, so the next couple of months, that I'm interested in. And if I did that on a monthly sort of basis, then we would probably be sitting here for like an hour, and so it just made sense to do just like a quick video once a week, put it out on like a Monday, and just quickly go over some of the books that I thought were interesting that were being released in that week. So that is what this video is. That's what I plan on doing going forward. If you're interested in that, amazing. I guess we'll see what the interest is like, as to like whether I continue doing it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Obviously depends on what books I'm interested in that are coming out. But yeah, I want to try and do it at least every week or so. So yeah, anyway, the books. This week we have 9 books that are coming out, or 9 new releases that are coming out that look interesting. I'm pretty sure actually that they are all coming out on March 25th. According to Goodreads, that's the one that I've seen that tends to be the most accurate. If there are other places that you find your new release dates, absolutely let me know. I would love to know. But yeah, for now I'm just going to go based on Goodreads because that's the one that I've seen is most accurate. I don't know how they whether their publication date is like America, like the US, the UK, or Australia. Sometimes it tends to be like all of them on the same day. Some of them tend to be like a week later. Unfortunately, in Australia, we tend to have it a week later. Or at least for the books that I've wanted to buy, it's been a week later. So yeah, we'll see how we go. But anyway, the books. The first book is This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. This is the author of In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, I think it is. And I haven't read that yet, but I really would like to. This one is a book about 5 amateur sleuths who are trying to find a killer. And in doing so, that puts them all in danger. So the blurb says, it's the most famous crime in modern history, but only she knows the true story. After the unexpected death of her father, college student Jane Sharp longs for a distraction from her grief. She becomes obsessed with true crime, befriending armchair detectives who teach her how to hunt killers from afar. In this morbid internet underground, Jane finds friendship, purpose, and even glory. So when news of the shocking deaths of 3 college girls in Delphine, Idaho takes the world by storm and sleuths everywhere race to solve the crimes, Jane and her friends are determined to beat them, but the case turns out to be stranger than anyone expected. Details don't add up, the police are cagey, and there seems to be more media hype and internet theorizing than actual evidence. When Jane and her sleuths take a step closer, they find that every answer only begs more questions. Something's not adding up, and they begin to suspect their killer may be smarter and more prolific than any they've faced before. Placing themselves in the center of the story starts to feel more and more like walking into a trap. So, a murder mystery. I've really gotten into murder mystery lately, so yeah, this one, or I think this one's actually slated as a thriller mystery, but same. So yeah, that one looks really interesting. Next is Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. This is slated as a gothic horror with vampires, unsurprisingly. I love vampires. This is set in the late 1800s in the Netherlands, and it is about 2 sisters. One sister starts to feel unwell. She refuses to eat. She starts ranting basically and talking nonsensically, and she is becoming obsessed with centuries old corpses that have been recently discovered on her husband's estate. The doctor has diagnosed her as temporarily insane, which has been temporary insanity caused by a fever, and her twin sister is trying to stop her from being placed into an asylum, and also must unravel the mystery of her sister's illness. This one's being released on March 25 as well. So this book, Will Bury Me and Blood on Her Tongue, are both being released March 25th. Next is A Song of the Bluebottle Tree. This is written by India Hayford. It is historical fiction. It is about a woman who talks to... Actually, I'm going to read the blurb for this one too, because it does a much better job of explaining what it's about. Genevieve Charbonneau talks to ghosts and has a special relationship with rattlesnakes. In her travels, she has wandered through the South, working in a Louisiana circus and as a hoochie cooch dancer in Texas. Now, for the first time in a decade, she's allowed her winding path to bring her to the site of her grandmother's Arkansas farmhouse, a place hallowed in her memory. Disguised by years in exile and a name she found on a gravestone, Genevieve intends only to visit briefly and leave, but a chance meeting with a guilt-ridden young Vietnam veteran draws her into more unexpected connections. Her hard-won independence inspires an abused woman and her daughters to find their own path to empowerment, and a hypocritical preacher is brought to a long-deserved reckoning. So this one has apparently undertones of magical realism and dark humor, and is all about discovering and rediscovering one's place in the world, which seems really it seems like a really nice but also dark historical fiction story. So this one is also slated to be released March 25th. Next is Saltwater by Katie Hayes. This is a mystery thriller. It's set in I think modern day, but it goes back to 1992. So in 1992, this woman Sarah is found dead below the cliffs of her hometown, I think it is. She leaves behind her 3-year-old daughter, and in spite of suspicions that there was this old money family involved, her death is ruled as an accident. Every year the family returns, so the accused family returns to prove and to just, I guess, remain, to remind people that her death was an accident and they weren't involved. And then on the 30th anniversary of her death, they arrive at their villa and they find her necklace waiting for them. That is pretty much the entirety of what the blurb says about this. It is actually a really interesting... I like that it's different for me from other mystery thrillers, in that actually it reminds me... The synopsis of this book actually reminds me of What Happened to Nina by Devla McTiernan, so I think that is why, the biggest reason why, when I was going through the list of books to be released, it sort of stood out for me. I am quite excited to read this. The library actually has it, or my local library has it, so hopefully I'll be getting that this week or next week. But anyway, this one is expected to be released on March 25th as well. Next is Nowhere by Alison Gunn. This is apparently a horror mystery thriller. The synopsis says, after losing her young son in an accident, Rachel Cannon throws herself into a career as police chief at a small Virginia town to avoid focusing on her grief. Meanwhile, her husband, Finn, a washed-up writer whose alcoholism led to the devastating tragedy that changed everything, struggles to redeem himself before his family completely falls apart. Their 2 daughters are the only things keeping Rachel and Finn together, but the girls have demons of their own. At the same time, a disturbing crime rocks their tight-knit religious community, sending Rachel chasing leads in a place that does not take kindly to outsiders. When an ominous force in the forest starts calling to the children, fear spawns hate among the townspeople, placing the Cannon family directly in the line of fire. Left with no choice but to rely on each other, Rachel and Finn must come together to face threats inside and out. So, this is also a debut novel, which is exciting. Or a horror debut. No, this is her debut. So this is her debut novel. So that's exciting. And it sounds really interesting. It kind of sounds like... It reminds me of CJ Tudor's newest book, but also it was like the outsider and like small town vibes. But reminds me of a Stephen King book, but I can't think of which one. But anyway, yeah, it sounds really interesting, and it is also expected to be published on March 25th. Oh, this next book has probably one of my favorite covers of like any book cover I have seen. I need this. It is The Serpent Called Mercy by Roanne Lau. Dragons all over the cover, like, oh, it's so pretty. It is a high fantasy, I believe, and I think the first in a series. I hope the first in a series. I could be wrong. It doesn't say it's a series. I mean, we need more standalone high fantasy anyway, but it sounds amazing. So this is slated as The Witcher meets Squid Games. It's a Malaysian Chinese inspired epic fantasy, and the synopsis says Leaflet and her only friend Diesel are shackled to. I had to actually ask, it's a quick side note, I had to actually ask my husband. I was like, hey, I need to pick your brain. How do I pronounce her name? Because I'm gonna put it here. I wasn't sure if it would be like Leaflet or like Lifelet, and he said Leaflet, and I actually tend to agree with him. So in my brain it's always going to be Leaflet, but happy to be corrected, obviously. But yeah, I had to ask my husband because I literally couldn't get past the fact that I couldn't figure out how to pronounce her name, and so I couldn't actually read the synopsis without going and like figuring out how to pronounce her name first. Anyway, tangent. Leaflet and her only friend Diesel are shackled to a life of debt and poverty that she fears they will never escape. Desperate for money, they sign up as arena combats who fight sun-cursed beasts in the seedy underworld of the city. Matchmaster Dothalos is initially enamored of Diesel's brawling reputation, but after seeing Leaflet lead the pair to triumph with her quick cunning, he takes her under his wing, scorning Diesel. Ambition takes root in Leaflet's heart as a life of fame and wealth unfolds in her imagination. But Leaflet isn't the only one out for coin and glory, and she soon finds herself playing an entirely different game, a game of politics and deception. As the cost of her ambition grows, she will have to decide if sacrificing her honor and only friendship is worth the chance to shape her own fortune. This sounds exactly like, or not exactly like, it sounds very, very similar to, or like in the same genre as Shiren J. Zhao's books. It sounds very similar to, or like with the political intrigue and with like the fighting things and the like fame and fortune and everything that comes from it. It reminds me very much of Shiren J. Zhao's Iron Widow and Heavenly Tyrant, and I loved the Iron Widow, and I'm going to be reading the Heavenly Tyrant very soon. So this just reminds me a lot of that, and the fact that it is The Witcher meets Squid Games, like, sold. This one is also apparently going to be published on March 25th. Next is the second book in the Drowned World series. So that is Tideborn by Eliza Chan. The first book is Fathom Folk Up Here. I bought Tideborn because I loved the cover. Not Tideborn, Fathom Folk. I bought Fathom Folk because I loved the cover, and I'll probably be buying Tideborn because I love the cover. I really hope that the second book is better than the first. The first book, the beginning and the end were amazing. The middle was a bit dry, and so I'm hoping we don't have that same issue with this one. But basically we're going back to the city of Tiankawi. It has obviously been irrevocably changed. If you've read the first one, you know what's happened. I'm not going to be going into spoilers for that. So basically the Fathom folk and the humans were fighting against each other, and now they are basically not. Mira is, or was, a captain in the army, I think it was. She was the first Fathom folk captain in their armed forces. She apparently in this book has to uncover a deadly conspiracy while also persuading the Fathom folk and the humans to join forces. And then there is also Nami, who is the dragon princess, who caused all sorts of mischief in the first book, has to take a sea voyage to convince a Titan not to destroy Tiankawi. I'm curious as to where the story goes. I don't know if there is any more. I can't remember if this is a duology or a trilogy. Yeah, it doesn't say whether there's going to be any more, but I'm not sure whether it's going to be like a duology or a trilogy. I guess we'll see what happens with this book. I don't know if I'll continue if it is a trilogy. It is going to very much my reading more of this series, if there is any more in the series. And yeah, expected publication date for this one, again, is March 25th. Second last is The Other People by C.B. Everett. This is a mystery thriller. It is kind of a closed room style thriller, I think, from the understanding of it, from like what the blurb says. It says on the description that it combines Agatha Christie with Shutter Island, so that's kind of interesting. 10 strangers are locked in an old house and there is a killer picking them off one by one. There is a missing girl who is running out of time and they have to solve the disappearance of a young woman in order to escape. So I love the last line. It says, "Forget what you think you know, because while you can trust yourself, can you really trust the other people?" And that line is what sold me. I was like, oh, this looks amazing. So again, publication date, March 25th. And finally, a book that everyone's been talking about. It's got really mixed reviews. It is When the Moon Hits Your Eye by John Scalzi. It is science fiction / speculative fiction / humor. I know it is definitely getting very mixed reviews from people. Basically, it is a book about what happened or what would happen if the moon turned into just a big ball of cheese. And yeah, I think because it's so just like out there and so odd, that is why it is so interesting to me. And yeah, the mixed reviews make it seem a lot really interesting, because people, it seems like the kind of book where you either love it or you hate it. So yeah, and again, like I said, all of these books are coming out on the same day, basically. The expected publication date is March 25th. But yeah, so those are the 9 books that I'm interested in this week. What did you think of this format? Is something that you would be interested in me doing? I'm going to be doing it for a couple of weeks and just see how it goes anyway. There are so many really good books coming out this year, or really interesting looking books coming out this year, and I wish I had more time to read books, but unfortunately I don't. There's never enough time. Our TBRs always end up like triple the amount that we will ever be able to read in our lifetimes, but it is what it is. Do you have any other books that I haven't mentioned that are coming out this week that you are interested in? Have you, or are you interested in any of these books that I've mentioned? Have you read these books? I would love to hear your opinions if you have read them. Hopefully I'll get to some of them soon. Like I said, I've got Saltwater coming from the library, and I will probably end up buying a couple of these in the next few weeks or so, because they look amazing. So yeah, if you like what I do here, please like, share and subscribe. All of those things help out the channel. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time to watch my videos, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.